Hi everyone. In this tutorial, I will show you how you can trigger a blueprint via sequencer. So for example, I'll just simulate the level. In sequencer, I'll just press play. And at 2 seconds, it triggers this blueprint. So let's jump straight into now how to do this. So I've created a new folder inside of my content folder, but you can save these files in whatever location in your content folder is most appropriate for your project. In this folder, I'm going to right click, go to blueprint class, select actor, call this BP_explosion. Now I'm going to double click on this blueprint to open it up. Now, what we're going to do here is just one example of how you can connect a blueprint to sequencer, but using the same principle as what we'll go through here, you can connect pretty much nearly any of your blueprints to sequencer. So on the left-hand side, if we click on the add button and just search for static mesh, and we're going to add a static mesh. With that static mesh component selected, on the right hand side in the static mesh row, click on where it says none, and then we'll just use a cube for this. So I'm just going to select one of the cubes here, and that's all we need to add now in the components panel. We'll just click on compile and save. Now let's jump into the event graph. So these three commonly used default execution nodes we can actually delete. So let's select them and delete them. And to connect to sequencer, we're going to create a custom event. So let's right click and just search for custom and then add custom event. And this one, let's just call it connect to sequencer, or SEQ for short. You can call this the name that's most appropriate to your project, but for this, we'll just call this connect to sequencer. Now let's drag off and let's search for spawn emitter, and we'll do emitter attached. And in the emitter template, click on it, and we're going to use explosion. Now, this particle system comes with the starter content. So if you don't have that explosion, you can just add the starter content and it will be there. You can just, in your content browser, click on add, and then go to add feature or content pack, and you can add starter content that way. So back in the spawn emitter attached node, let's just scale this up a little bit. Let's just, in scale, let's just put 5, and that should be fine for that. From the components panel, let's drag in the static mesh and drag off the static mesh and attach that to attach to component. So this emitter is going to spawn from the center of our static mesh, basically. Now let's add a few more elements. So I'm just going to drag static mesh down because we're going to connect it to a couple of other nodes. So let's drag off of static mesh and let's do set simulate physics. So at the moment, it's just going to be a static mesh. It's just going to stay in one spot. The second that this node is activated, it's actually going to start simulating physics. So it's going to drop to the ground. So let's tick the box where it says simulate. And now where it says spawn emitter attached, drag off of that and plug that into set simulate physics. And let's drag off of set simulate physics and add an impulse. And we're going to have a few options here. Add impulse static mesh. Let's just do add impulse. And then we'll use the same static mesh node that we've already got in the graph. So let's drag off of that and plug that to target. We can hover over the connection line so it goes bold and double click. And just drag down this reroute node so it keeps things a bit tidier. Now, you can put in whatever direction you want, but I'm just going to make this go upwards. So in the Z, or the Z value, I'm going to put 100,000. You may have to play around with this value to get something appropriate to what you're looking for, but for this example, 100,000 should be fine. And that's all we need to do. So let's press compile and save. And we can dock this blueprint. So just drag that up and dock it next to the third person map, or whatever map you're using. Just drag it next to that tab. Okay, so back in our level editor, we can drag in this blueprint, place it somewhere like so. In the folder, I'm going to right click, go to cinematics, create a new level sequence, call this ls_explosion, and double click to open that up. If your sequencer is showing frames as opposed to seconds, you can simply go to wherever it says FPS and whatever number you've got your sequencer set to, and then show time as seconds or frames. So I've got this showing as seconds, so I'm going to drag this to 2.5 seconds for this example. Now from the world outliner, I am going to drag in the blueprint that we just placed in the level, and I'm going to place it in sequencer. And now in this BP explosion track, I'm going to click on the plus button, go to event and add a trigger. And then where it's got the plus button that's inside little diamond shape, I'm just going to click on that to add a new keyframe. With that keyframe added, I can right click on it, go to properties, and where it says endpoint unbound, click on the drop down and then click on create new endpoint. And this takes us into the level sequence graph, and every level sequencer will come with its own graph. It's got a sequencer events, also has an event graph as well. But for this, we can just stick with sequencer events. So where we've got this custom event execution node, we can drag off and simply search for the custom event that we created, which was connect to sequencer. And it just comes up in the list like so. So click on that. And where it says target, we can just drag off of that and connect that to BP explosion, and then compile and save. And now back in our level. For this blueprint to actually work, we do have to make sure that level is simulating. So click on the simulate button. So whenever you start play or whenever you render out footage from sequencer, it will automatically simulate. So it will do that by default. But let's just drag our timeline back to 0. Let's press play. And there you go. We've triggered the explosion, and that impulse has also lifted up the cube as well. We'll do that once more. And this pretty much covers it. So if you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them in the comment section.